Welcome to Podcast Awesome, where we chat about icons, design, tech, business, and nerdery with members of the Font Awesome team. I'm your host, Matt Johnson, and today we're going to talk about the making of the Font Awesome 7 video, which was a lot of fun. And I'll be talking to Jory and Isaac, who both were very instrumental in the making of the video. We talk about being on set with the actors that you already know and love that have been in the other Font Awesome videos. We talk about everything that is involved in making a video in a 12-hour stretch, start to finish. We talk about some of the happy mistakes that come along the way, some of the improv that the actors do in real time. We talk a little bit about gear, and we talk about somebody who walked around in a hot dog suit all day. It'll make sense in a minute. Well, Jory and Isaac, thanks for joining us on this edition of Podcast Awesome. Jory, if I'm not mistaken, you've kind of been here through the evolution of the videos. Were you a Font Awesomer at the shooting of version 5?
No, when the version 5 video was shot for the Kickstarter, it was Dave, Travis, Brian, and Rob. Mm-hmm. And then Mike joined, and then I joined a week later. So all of 2017 they were working on it, and then I joined in February of 2018. Mm-hmm. And then I think the official release of version 5 was in March.
I think Dave had heard maybe after they shot the video that, yeah, you don't really want to do comedy for a tech startup, that it just doesn't land very well. But I also wonder, would that have informed how Dave would have thought about it? If somebody had said, oh yeah, you're doing your Kickstarter video, yeah, don't do any of that comedy stuff because it doesn't really work for tech. I just wonder what the outcome would have been had he heard that. I don't know. I'm glad that he didn't.
Yeah, it's a good question. It goes against our DNA to not be silly. We got to do stuff that's fun and silly. I don't think it's worth doing for us, at least, if it doesn't have a little bit of humor to it. Yeah. One of our core company values is deliver the punchline. So
deliver the punchline. Yeah. It's kind of part of the DNA of everything. I seem to remember that Brian was quite involved in sort of crafting the vibe, the idea of the bakery, because we didn't want to do some sort of cold thing where it's like, oh, you know, we're in a lab with like beakers and things like that. And it was really important to get across this idea, this kind of warm idea, and that taking this idea of tech and making it a little bit more real to life. And I love that they chose the bakery theme. I think it fits really well.
Yeah, I think that's always the challenge with our stuff in particular, because we want it to have that human feel, and yet our product is so digital by nature that bridging the gap and finding a way where we could talk about it with real people. I think the bakery in that case was a great metaphor for like using our different icons or different technology and all that. Actually, Isaac, I think you were at that video. Isaac, before he was... Yeah.
Version 6.
Yeah, that was
you were but a wee lad.
First, yeah, very, very wee lad. I was 18 years old, but that was the first one that I was a part of. And I remember that just being very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And really cool that it was like in the coffee shop too, like two worlds mixing that I wouldn't have thought like, this is a tech commercial. But yeah, it works very well. And then, yeah, I was put to work, and it was the fastest 12 hours of my life. Like they flew by so fast.
Yeah, we've had the original Font Awesome 5 Kickstarter video. Mm-hmm. We did a video to promote the pre-order of Font Awesome 6. And then we did a kind of more product-oriented, just general Font Awesome video, which is live on the site right now. And that's kind of the candy store, the Willy Wonka themed one. So we went from coffee to candy. And then we did the Web Awesome Kickstarter video, and now the Font Awesome 7 marketing video.
So there's job security here, which is I'm really glad for you.
Yeah, I'm learning real life practical skills rather than type it on my computer and press and play. So
no, that's right. one of the really great things beyond just sort of the continuity of the themes, we've got the coffee shop, candy shop, the bakery, and now the diner. Obviously, it involves food. It has a very human kind of fun element to it. And another great thing for folks that have followed along with all these different videos is that we've basically kept the main characters of the cast, which is awesome, to sort of create a cohesive, fun, awesome cinematic universe, which hopefully, I think it would make sense to keep having these folks come back. So, Jory, you've been a little bit more involved behind the scenes on this stuff, helping to put this together or organize it, or at least you've been in the know in terms of like who's going to do the production and all that. It's always been Knox Avenue, and Brooke has her team that she works with these actors. Was that just always just the thing that we were going to do?
Yeah, there's always discussion about, well, to be honest, that when we were talking about marketing for version 7, we asked, do we need one? Does it make sense? But we also just felt like it's so much fun, and we like it so much, and it's so much fun to create. And we have a big old spot on the front of our homepage on the website that is just begging for a little video. There's always been a video there. We got to keep a video there.
Yeah.
But no, we did have discussions about whether we wanted to try something different, whether we wanted to do an animation or something else. And so we brainstormed a lot. And we had to have the idea first before we threw a bunch of stuff against the wall. Then it just became a no-brainer that we were going to continue with the same folks. Like as soon as we decided we were doing a video, we're like, okay, well, we have to have the same people back. Like we just do. They're like the avatars of On Awesome, people. A lot of people think that Rob, who's not the Rob who works for us, but Rob, the actor who plays kind of the lead in the videos. There are a number of folks who thinks that's the founder of On Awesome.
Yeah.
He's just us. And you know what? We could be so lucky. So it's a very important because he's part of the, as you said, the FAQ.
Yes.
The
font awesome. FAQ. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
The same thing is with Jordan. Like he doesn't work with Knox Avenue anymore permanently. He has his own thing with Jory. What do you know?
Yeah, he's with the Corridor crew.
He works for. Yes, that's exactly. Yeah. So he does that full time. We reached out to him in 2023 when we shot the Web Awesome one to see if he'd come back and shoot that, and he said yes, thankfully, because it was amazing. And so whenever we were thinking about doing this one, we immediately wanted to ask him again because he's been a part of our journey for a really long time now. And he said yes, and he's just a really good director, really good guy, and we've had very funny moments with him and the crew with this last video.
On set, it was really fun to watch because like he took all the reference shots and like has this little kind of 3D mapper that maps the space so he can build a digital model and then map up the camera shots with the visual effects that he's building. But on set, Albert's just sitting there like looking up at the sky, like kind of faking, like kind of doing this, and just a few pancakes were like thrown at him. Like just actual pancakes were thrown at him. And then in the video itself, if you go and watch it, there are thousands of pancakes dropping from the sky.
When I was there watching that scene, because I was, just behind the cameras about 15, 20 feet away. And I was so confused. Like I saw somebody throwing pancakes at him and he's got his hands up, and I don't think they had a conversation about it. They just knew, Jordan's going to create these effects or whatever. I'm like, how are they going to do this? Like, I just didn't understand what they were going to do. And I was like, oh yeah. Computer effects. Okay. It all makes sense now.
Yeah. And even one take, I think it was probably the first take that we did of that. Albert was just like waiting for the pancakes to fly on him, and Jordan's just throwing them, and none of them are landing on him like at all. And I don't know if that made it into the behind the scenes video that we made, but I hope it did because it was so funny.
This time for this video, because we've done a few videos and we've kind of kicked ourselves for not documenting the process of creating them. We've taken a few photos here and there and like chatted with people, but this time we put Isaac to the test, and Isaac actually brought a camera and
Yes, indeed.
interviewed folks, and we did shoot some behind the scenes things, and we now have this little behind the scenes mini doc that he's put together for us, kind of documenting how it all went down. And because I feel like that sort of stuff is always what's the video is great, but it's even more fun to talk about and see how it was made.
Yeah.
Isaac, you've done other sort of mini documentaries in the past. Is that right?
Yeah. I, after graduating college, I started at Fun Awesome part-time, but my other half of my time was doing freelance projects with other clients, friends. I know a lot of people in the creative space in the town that I used to live in, and that's where I kind of started documentary filmmaking. And we would just create little mini docs, and they'd be shown at like events that we'd have in town. Whenever I heard that we were making another one of these, I immediately pitched to Jory, and I was like, can we make just like a behind the scenes video, either a documentary, funny, promo, like however that's going to look. Yep. I'd love to make one, because for me personally, whenever I see like movies or even just YouTube videos, I want to see how that's made, because that just really intrigues me. And I know it intrigues a lot of our audience. We greenlit it. We didn't really prep too much because it is kind of like a run and gun type of filming that we did on set, but it was super, super fun. We have some funny moments in there. And yeah, it just really shows our relationship with Knox Avenue over, gosh, almost 8 to 9 years of working with them.
Yeah, I loved the vibe on set. Like, it was sort of like this little reunion, even when we did the pre-meeting, that was sort of like the planning meeting the day before. There was nothing structured about it at all. It was just sort of like, hey man, how's it going? Everybody getting caught up. And then there was a few minutes, Jory, where you were sitting down with Jordan and kind of going over a few little bullet points, but it was like, there was already this relationship that was like really warm and familiar. And that was just really, really fun to see. And then when we were actually on set and like saw, getting introduced to the other actors and things like that, and everybody kind of knows each other already. That was really fun as sort of a newbie coming into that and observing that. I don't know if you guys noticed that Steve was in the hot dog suit all day long. From from morning till like the very last scene, he was in that hot dog suit. I mean, that dude was in character.
Yep. See, it's funny.
We maybe only filmed him for an hour max. And he could have taken that off in between, like the time where he's eating the hot dog.
Yeah, because he is only in he's in 2
boiling
shots
at the end.
Yeah. Oh, 3 shots. Yeah. What's so funny, Matt, you're saying it was so like, just like low key and easy peasy, that the pre-production meeting the day before. And for me, it was, but it was also.
Well, you were doing more than the rest of us, yeah.
Well, no, but it was eye-opening for me a little bit, because this video, more so than any of the others, was kind of my brainchild, in the sense that I had the initial concept for it and did a rough kind of breakdown of how I thought it could go. And then we shared it with Knox Avenue and Jordan and helped put his spin on it and kind of tie it together really and make it into an actual commercial. But I had this moment where we were talking, and it maybe shows up in the behind the scenes doc too. Is like we're on a Zoom with the props person who was showing us all the prop things they had gotten, and they were asking me to decide on the size of the heart-shaped butter. Like they had these different cookie cutters to make, because at this one point in the script I say, and then the butter pat switches out with a heart shape, a piece that looks like a heart and it looks good and stuff. Yeah. And it was at that moment where I was like, I just wrote this little thing. I added this little parentheses statement in the script, and then it is real. And not only is it real, like I have to decide on the size of it. And it was that at that moment I was like, I started seriously having doubts. I was like, Uh-oh, that's a minor thing. There are a lot of big things.
Yeah.
um, I think it
Mr.
all.
Jory, do you want the butter to be melting on the pancakes, or do you want it just to be like a cold pat of butter? How would you like to see that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. How it ended up. That's how I wanted to see. And
Yep. Yep.
um,
And there was one moment too. I remember we were in the back room and we had like a monitor. We were kind of watching what was going on, and like just little details on the fly. The menu, which there probably isn't anybody other than us like looking at it would know something was missing, but there was a little graphic that was missing on the printed menu. I was like, oh, you have to kind of make decisions on the fly because things are not going to go perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and they have ended up. They digitally added it back in,
yeah,
which is
the
great. And it's
magic
not.
of technology.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff like that. There are just so many decisions that get made, and you have to make all sorts of compromises because, of course, it's not gonna go great. In fact, in the script, one of the characters, who represents one of our new icon styles, was like in the script a lumberjack. Like we were like very clearly we kind of got a stereotypical lumberjack, like plaid shirt and big beard and all stuff. And we were kind of going through different actors who could fill the role, and I don't know, whatever the guy we ended up with, and I'm forgetting his name, but he was an awesome guy, and how he did the scene and just his line readings, I was like, oh no, this is how it was meant to be. It was fantastic.
Oh, for sure.
I don't, you have all these to go into the cooking metaphor, you have all these ingredients and you put them together, and like sometimes something unexpected happens, and after it happens you're like, oh no, it couldn't have gone any other way. This is perfect.
Yeah. I loved the prompts too that Jordan would give. Like he you have like these scenes like with that actor in particular where he's got like 5 seconds in the video or something like that, and it takes like maybe 30 to 40 minutes to get the shot right, and they're doing different takes, and Jordan is giving the guy cues. He's like, okay, you're coming in, you're forlorn, like you're just kind of down on your luck, and you're bummed out about life, but you're looking off into the distance. And then when your food comes, you take a bite, and it's just the best thing that you have ever tasted. And you're so psyched, and just the way that he would coach people with these different scenarios. It was so fun to watch.
Yeah. It made me so happy. That particular scene, well, that one, and then the Milton one and the hot dog, like I was like biting my hand to try to not ruin the take because I was like holding back a laugh. It was so fun.
Yeah. Well, because when you're doing multiple takes, and obviously there's going to be moments where folks are ad-libbing, and there were great moments where Steve did that in the hot dog outfit. It was just like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. Or like it, and Rob's really good at that too, where he's kind of delivering the intended lines, but then he adds something after the fourth or fifth take, and it's like, oh yeah, like that has to be in there, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I knew that there was a lot involved in putting a video together like this, but man, I'm kind of blown away that so much can get done in one day, but then thinking about how much has to get done to produce a video like this. Like it's, how long was this video? It's like less than 5 minutes, right? And it literally took 12 hours, like start to finish, right? To get everything, to get all the takes. And I mean, it is involved, man.
And it was exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one was a little bit different than the past ones we've done too, because for sure the Fun Awesome 6 promo and at least the Web Awesome one, the ones that I've been on, they've been 2-day shoots. So we've shot half of it the first day and half of it the second day, both 12-hour days. Super exhausting, but super fun. And this one, we just did a 1-day shoot versus the 2-day ones. So I remember whenever we were planning all this stuff, and like when we got the script and we were like helping add some stuff here and there. I remember telling Jory, I was like, are we sure we can do this all in one day? Just because they've all been around the same time limit, and we've needed both 12-hour days to shoot it. So I was really concerned about it, just because I've been on set and we've done stuff like that. And so it was a little scary, but once we like got the call sheet and the breakdown, and once we had the pre-meeting, like it went by super, super fast.
And the different thing about this particular video too, having seen the scripts of all the previous ones, is I feel like this one, the setting really helped us, because we were very specific in most of the setups in the script were exactly how they ended up. Whereas the Web Awesome one, you're like, walks through this room and there's this thing in it, but like I didn't really have an idea of what the room was going to look like until we got there, and we were kind of making the best of the space we had. But this one we knew was like a diner, and so this shot is going to be Rob's behind the counter, this shot is going to be at a booth, this shot is going to be walking down the aisle, this shot is going to be in the kitchen. Like, it was very, the sense of locale was very clear in the script writing process. And then that also was a fun part, where we had the idea for a diner, kind of predicated on the concept that with Fawn Awesome 7, we are legit offering different types of things to people, like we're changing the recipe. So if Fawn Awesome 7, our core stuff is a menu item, is a dish, it's delicious, it's great, but like sometimes you need something that's a little different. And so there are different recipes, different menu items you can choose from, different styles of food. And so we had the idea for a diner, and we were just like, well, it's got to be like the quintessential 50s style diner. Like in our head, it's like, it's got to be like you hear 50s diner, and you kind of can picture what it is in your head. And so thankfully in the LA area, there are a bunch of options that are actual diners or sets built to look like diners. And so they would send us all these like location shoots of things we could use.
Yeah.
And then it's been even more things since. There's like a new like exhibit video or something that is out that just shot there recently, which is kind of fun to see. Now that we know it so intimately, I'm like, oh yeah, they shot it at that. Oh, those are the menu holders that came with the place. And
yeah, it's funny. When we pulled up, I was like envisioning a movie, like a shootout happening. Like there's a drug lord that's like hiding out in this like skeezy hotel, and then like the bad guys come, and there's a there's a shootout. That was kind of the vibe of it, which is awesome. And then when we walked into the diner, it was almost like somebody hadn't stepped foot in there since like 1972 or something like that. Like it just had that vibe, which was awesome. It was so great. Were there other diners that were given serious consideration?
I mean, that was the clear winner when we were looking at them all. There was another one that could have worked that wasn't an actual diner, but it was like I'm sure there's a name for it, but it was like a perma set available for rent.
Right.
A diner set in a warehouse or something that you could rent and use the space. I think we have learned with all the videos is that like the location does so much for us. That coffee shop was an actual coffee shop. The bakery was an actual bakery. The Willy Wonka video was the hardest one for us because we wanted it to be so fantastical, but the first cut of it, it was just like this, concrete bunker warehouse space that we had to dress up to make it work. And what's funny is we actually went back and did a reshoot at an actual candy shop because we were like, we can't do it in this space. And there's still a few shots in the video that were from that, but ultimately we were like, no, it has to be a real space.
Yeah,
for sure. Does so much for us. So.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the folks on set. That folks are working really hard. Like even like you said, the person that's like clapping the thing between scenes, she had to be engaged and be there the right moment. I mean, see, you might think like, well, it's just a bunch of people like standing around and like doing these simple things, but like they're working hard. They're all working together as a team. It was pretty impressive to watch for sure.
Another moment kind of relates to that, where we were in the back room watching the monitor, and I would hear like footsteps coming in and the food designers, they styled all of the food, but we had the ice cream sundaes, and they kept putting them and taking them back into the freezer, and they had to like wrap around the whole building just to put them in the freezer, and then when we were not rolling, they'd have to come back and bring them out. Like just crazy stuff like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like they really have to like one be in the timing of everything, but then also be aware of like what's going around them.
Yeah, and they had to make, I don't know how many, like they have to made identical hot dogs, like the buns, and like dressed the exact same way, the exact same amount of relish on them, like 10 identical ones, so that Steve could take a bite, and then if they needed to reset, we could start from the same spot with one without a bite, and then he just kept eating those hot dogs.
Yeah, that was funny when Jordan was like, Steve, like, you don't have to eat those. Go, you can spit it out. Can we get another one, please? And he would like take a bite, and then he's like getting full, and then they bring a new one.
Yeah.
You've done a few mini documentaries before. Is there anything about how you approached this Fun Awesome one that was maybe different or more involved than other ones that you've done? I mean, it's different subject matter for sure, but how did you approach this one?
Yeah, this one was very different than any of the ones that I've done before, mainly in the sense where we didn't have a really tight structure that usually other projects are associated with. We knew like who we wanted to interview, what questions we wanted to ask, and like the overall vibe of how we wanted the video to run, but we didn't know like one, how the location was set up. For me at least, I was like, okay, we got to be able to shoot around people, make sure we're not in anyone's way, because at the end of the day, we're trying to get this done. These are people's jobs. I'm just here to capture what other people are doing. So that one was a really big unknown at the very start. And for most of our video projects that we do at Fun Awesome, if they're shot in person, this is going to get really camera specific, but we usually just shoot regular camera settings. We don't shoot in RAW or in log. So we usually just are color grading on top of whatever is already there, which is super easy. But for this project, I wanted to do something very different. So we shot completely in RAW and using DaVinci Resolve, which is another platform that I have never used before, maybe like once or twice before this shoot. And since we're inside outside for this behind the scenes video, lighting is super, super tricky to get to. So color grading and making sure all of our settings were right as we're like following people and trying to like track people down. Something that I was not expecting for some reason. But in the end result, I think it works really well. But those were some of the things that were super different in the past. Editing usually goes pretty smoothly. We pick out beats that we want to start with, and then we kind of build around that, and music and stuff. And then right now, like as we're recording this video, I am collaborating with Noah on getting some new title graphics switched out and stuff. So it's really collaborative process, like getting notes back from both of you, helping with Noah, stuff like that. So it's been really fun to make it.
Yeah, I've been so excited to see each new cut of it. Like, hey, we got a new draft. Like it's coming together so well. I think I just love, the behind the scenes stuff. Like, how is this thing made? Like, how much heart is put into it, and just, I mean, just the vibe on set and stuff. It's great to kind of give people a little glimpse into that.
There were two things that I noticed when I was watching some of the earlier cuts. The first was it made me remember how bright where you guys had me set up when you were interviewing me out there. The sun was like, it was like so bright. It was so bright. But you say that like the editing is just super easy and kind of comes together. But what I found fascinating was like I was so engaged watching that the cuts of the promo, because you tell a story with it that we're not really aware is even happening during the day. But it was kind of telling to me. It's so interesting because you're kind of, it's like a puzzle. You're picking all these pieces, and like just the power of editing, you're able to create a story out of disparate elements and like weave in little bits of the interviews throughout to kind of like punctuate points when, on the day reality, we sit down for an interview and we're talking to, you're asking a few questions. We're talking for like half an hour or something,
Right.
hoping something comes out of it.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of, like you said, you're finding story beats. It's like, oh yeah, okay, we're just shooting the video, but making it a little interesting. And what I told you was like, I just want it longer because like I was so interested watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I was there the whole day. I know what happened. I was like, but this is it. It's like one of those. It's like how memory can be, make things like put a little shine on something. You remember something. It's like this is the plus wanting that to the nth degree. Listen, I'm not a mathematician, but it's like it just makes the day was like, oh, that day actually was really, really cool. And it's better than my memory of that day was.
I say that it wasn't, I mean, it was easy, but I mean, it took a few weeks to get there and a lot of like trial and error. And then like we had a few references of kind of like the direction we wanted to go in at the start. And I'd have to like go back at those. I'm like, well, this doesn't really work here. I remember we had the interview with Milton specifically, or Steve, was in a completely different place in one of the cuts that I had sent. And I didn't know how to transition. Like we have 6 minutes of other footage that we can show, but I don't know how to clip those two together. It like wasn't sticking for me. So those parts were probably the hardest. Is we have an interview and it's kind of funny, but how do we take that back to the shoot without like making it seem super obvious that we're just like harsh cutting or anything like that. So that was probably the hardest part. And then we just kind of moved to near the end and I think it flows a lot better. But yeah, there's definitely some really hard moments figuring out, oh, we have a good pace for 3 minutes, but then we have this chunk that is not working and you either scrap it or you move it up, move it back. So that's probably the harder parts. But yeah.
Well, you said I haven't seen the most recent cut because I've been busy, but you, Matt, you mentioned is in the latest cut. Do we have the bit about the menu? Like the
we're in the back room and Brooke says, somebody raises the issue and you're like, oh, it didn't print, we're like, oh, what are we going to do? It was like in the moment thing. We got to figure out something on the fly.
Yeah. Because Isaac, you reached out to me and you're like, hey, is it okay if we include this bit in the video? It's like, number one, I don't even remember that you were filming at that moment. Like because you've been doing it. That was later in the day. And I was not, you just blended in. It was just so seamless that you were walking around filming stuff. So number one, I didn't even remember that it was filmed. And then number two, you're like, cause it could be an interesting like story moment where it kind of, adds a little bit of tension to this thing. And it was like, oh, well, it all worked out. So sure. Why not?
Yeah. I remember editing that and was like, yeah, this adds like really good tension because it's kind of in the middle of the edit too, where like if people got lost, like we could catch their attention. And I was like, this is a really good moment, but I don't know if it's like too negative, like that we forgot something, but it works. And I really like it totally works now. Yeah. And not to mention after this whole experience, I would love, and now that I know how it kind of works filming wise, because I think that was the hardest part, is like being comfortable filming other people, because we didn't really like tell everybody we were filming a doc. They were like, what is this for? And we're like, oh, it's behind the scenes. I think we need to do this every time and make it 30 minutes now that we know how to do it. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm all about it. I loved too that having been there on set and seeing what you came up with, and the kind of going back to some of the stuff that Jory said, it gives you a peek back into kind of your memory of it, but also like reflecting like, this is totally what happened. It's not like you stitch something together that's like, what was that? I mean, it looks cool, but that wasn't what it was about at all. But like you're like telling the truth of what happened, and it's just really cool to be able to reflect back on that and have like a little memento of the moment.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Okay.
Are there any, I don't know, Easter eggs that we want to call out? Is it really an Easter egg if you have to say there's an Easter egg? I don't know.
The Easter egg in this video is there's a certain redheaded co-founder of Fun Awesome in the video who makes an appearance. Dave Gandy makes an appearance towards the end of the video. cheersing a glass of blue milk to a stormtrooper.
Yeah, blue milk. There's a little Easter egg if anybody can crack that code.
Yeah, and then we have a couple inside jokes. There's a scene where we scan across the menu, and if you freeze frame, you'll see some funny inside jokes about some things that are very Font Awesome specific on the menu itself that you quickly scan past.
There's at the beginning where he mentions, "Don't let anybody like make you feel bad about your height" or something like that, which is a kind of a deep cut reference to episode 4.
Yeah, yeah,
with the Stormtrooper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the Font Awesome 6 video, he's he's handing off some coffee to basically a Marty McFly lookalike from Back to the Future. And then we had to get
make like a tree. Get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good stuff. It's funny too that those little details that people wouldn't necessarily know. A lot of it, some folks may get some of these like subtle references. I'm sure there's some folks that will get some of those subtle references, but even the more like behind the scenes stuff, like even the copy that was written, that's on the menus and sort of the inside jokes with that stuff, it's not necessarily anything that's your average viewer is going to notice, but just the fact that it's pleasing for us, every little detail, it creates just such a fun environment to create together. I think and how would you even measure it? But it makes the end result, I think, that much better, just because we've been enjoying ourselves the entire time,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm all about that idea of delivering the punchline. Just makes everything better, I think.
Yep, when we can stick the landing.
Yeah, that's right.
The one thing I'll mention is that it kind of feels a little full circle-y with in a couple ways getting Steve, who plays the character of Milton, into this hot dog outfit.
Yeah.
In the very first video, Steve is there for a brief scene where he is on the other side of the glass playing the kind of the character trying to poke holes in some of the stuff we're doing, and he like through the glass is like, "You changed the recipe, didn't you? You changed the recipe, didn't you?" And so we deliberately flipped that on its head, and this time he's like excited that we've changed the recipe, and so he literally says, "You changed the recipe." And so it feels like it's taken us, however many years to finally get Steve, the Milton character, onto the side of Font Awesome. But Font Awesome 7, when we were coming up with the idea for it, we wanted to do these new icon packs. So basically these small batch packs that included like the 200 to 300 most used icons you would need on a website. And we kind of had this idea that we like wanted to do wildly different styles, like just stretch our legs and have a lot of fun. And the very first style we had the idea for was what we've now started calling Not Dog, which is a very bubbly icon set. And so the first icon set we created for Font Awesome was Not Dog. For Font Awesome 7 was Not Dog. And then to get Milton, as soon as I came up with the idea that we're jumping between different sets in the diner, I was like, oh, and the last set has to be Not Dog, and it has to be Milton in a hot dog outfit. It just has to be.
Of course.
Like, there's no question. So like that idea was one of the first ones that came to me, and I was like, well, I guess we're making this video because I have to see that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I want to get Steve, and he said he's always game for it. And just like you said, he was in the hot dog outfit the entire day. But it's fun. I mean, in the Willy Wonka video, we've got him dressed up in like some, very hip and modern clothing, like the backwards baseball cap and stuff. So he lets us have a little bit of fun at his expense. And
he's a sport about it.
Yeah. We're grateful for that.
Well, fellows, I appreciate you taking some time to come on Podcast Awesome. We could chat about the making of these videos. It was super fun, and hopefully we'll have future experiences on set again. We'll see how it goes. And for folks that have not seen the video, hopefully we've piqued your interest a little bit. So you definitely want to check that out.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Now go make something awesome.
Make something awesome.
Well, I'd say that's about a wrap for this edition of Podcast Awesome. If you enjoyed this episode, maybe pass it on to a friend. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks to Isaac and Jory for coming on the show and giving us sort of a sneak peek behind the making of the video. That was really fun. And as always, this Podcast Awesome production was produced and edited by this guy right here, Matt Johnson. The Podcast Awesome theme song was composed by Ronnie Martin with a little help of the musical interstitials, which were created by Zach Malm, and the audio mastering was done by Chris Enns at Lemon Productions. Of course, with these video specific episodes, we get a little extra help from our good friend who was a guest on today's episode, Isaac Chase.